You know how you know somebody who's been traumatized. We all do. It could be you, could be a family member, it could be a friend, could be a police officer, a military member, but we all know somebody who's been traumatized. Now the bigger problem is that most people suffer in silence from their trauma, unable to access effective psychotherapy or help. And we all know that when a person's traumatized, they're not doing what they're meant to do. They suffer, their families suffer, the communities they live in suffer. So I'd like you to just take a moment and imagine a world in which trauma was viewed differently, without stigma, and where trauma could heal quickly, effectively, in non-re-traumatizing ways, because that's the world we live in today. I'm Kanerva. I'm a former military pilot. I'm a former humanitarian worker. I've seen the very best and the very worst of what the world can do to each other. And I've made it my life's work to understand trauma and to understand how people can heal from trauma. And I'm asking for a commitment. I'm asking for you to listen to this video to the end. That's all I'm asking for. All right? So in my own personal story, I came back from a deployment in 1990 and I knew I wasn't right. And I was misdiagnosed as being depressed and I was put on the drug du jour called Prozac. Now me and Prozac didn't dance well together, but I'm a really smart guy. I was living in Vancouver and I figured out if I went to Whistler every Wednesday and went skiing, I'd probably get better. And sure enough, it helped me manage my emotional states, but it didn't heal my trauma and I was traumatized. Now, I was that guy who would have nightmares almost every night of the week. I thought everybody did. Now my nightmares were intense and severe. I would wake up in the middle of the night and need to get in action. I'm just under 190 pounds. My first wife, and there's a message, about 130 pounds. I'd wake up in one of these nightmares, I'd grab her wrist and I would run. Life wasn't safe for her at all. I also had a family tragedy 2 years later. A real tragedy. I lost my first son. And I want to tell you that those are massive traumas I was experiencing. Today, I sleep like a baby. I fall asleep easily, effortlessly. I sleep 7.5 hours a night. I could tell the story of anything that went on previously in my life calmly, clearly, coherently, and in detail, without any inappropriate or unwarranted negative arousal. And I share all of that with you because it is meaningful to me, and I think it should be meaningful to you, that people can overcome trauma. And I want to share the keys to healing from trauma with you now as I understand them. And the first key is belief. You must believe that trauma is an injury that can heal. People are healthy, they're good, they're vibrant, and then something really, really, really bad happens to them, a tragedy. And from that moment on, they behave differently. Their brain was injured in that tragedy. And now part of their belief system, part of their nervous system overreacts to everything. When that happens, they become mentally tormented. And if it goes on long enough, they'll become physically tortured. And that's not okay. So the first key to overcoming trauma is you must believe that it's an injury that can heal. And the research proves that today. The second key to healing from trauma is to get a proper diagnosis. When I came home from the Middle East in 1990, I was diagnosed by a family doctor. Now he was doing the very best he could with the tools he had, but he's not qualified to diagnose trauma. So if you're going to get a diagnosis, if you have the symptoms of trauma, you can't sleep, you have multiple wake-ups every night, you can't go out in public, you're hyper-aware, hyper-vigilant, you're triggered all the time, those are symptoms. Now your doctor will give you things to help lessen the symptoms, but it's not a diagnosis. Go to somebody who's qualified to diagnose a mental disorder. Somebody who can actually diagnose the degree to which you're traumatized. Now, if you've gone to your general practitioner and you've got a diagnosis, 100% of the time they're going to give you some medications. So the other key to healing is to know that meds only treat symptoms, they don't heal trauma. There's not a single piece of research in the world that I'm aware of, and I've said this for 11 years now, that says by using these medications you will heal trauma. Not even the current use of psychedelics. When people use psychedelics, they also do therapy in combination with the psychedelics. It's not the psychedelic that heals the trauma. Equally true is there's not a single medication that enhances the quality of your sleep. Now this is really, really important because while you sleep, you're getting a thing called overnight therapy. So I would be really cautious on the use of meds thinking they're going to heal trauma. They do not. Now the next key to healing trauma is to get to the right clinician. The clinician you work with, the mental health care clinician you choose, must believe that trauma is an injury that can heal. And you need to ask them that. If they say, well, maybe, I'm going to suggest to you move on and find a clinician who believes trauma is an injury that can heal. And the next part of that is they must be able to prove that they've actually healed somebody's trauma. And what evidence did they use that the person was healed? The greatest physical evidence of healed trauma is the ability to fall asleep, stay asleep, and get 6, 7, 8 hours sleep a night regularly. The final and probably most important key to healing trauma is finding the right clinician using the right modality. Now, the research is unequivocal that there are modalities that have very, very, very high efficacy, over 92%, with little to no recurrence. That's the modality you want to work with. Now, this beautiful Mac computer beside me is 41 years old, and I'm going to suggest to you that some of the therapies that some clinicians use are as old as this Mac computer, and the evidence they're using is as old as this Mac computer. Now, you and I would not use this Mac computer for our day-to-day computing. We have way better tools. And I'm suggesting to you that when you heal trauma, you've got to find a tool that works, that's current, contemporary. And the ones that work all have a very specific piece of neuroscience in them. And if you want more information, I encourage you to click the link below. Thank you for staying to the end of the video.